And welcome to week 3 here at the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference for Rocket League. My name is John Fiasco Byram. I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend. Maybe not in Rocket League. Joey's pretty good at Rocket League, but it's the king of the courtside, and it's Joey Courtside King McDermott. Joey, how are you this fabulous Wednesday? Are you ready for some week 3 Rocket League action?
Absolutely, John. Week 1 and week 2, we've had a couple 3-0s that were not quite as exciting, but we've had a number of games go to that best of 5, go to that game 4. A lot of really exciting competition between, and John, the passing between some of these teams has been superb so far.
The passing, the rotation, just the style of play we've seen from these colleges and universities have been on a whole completely different tier. And again, I'm not just going to say it's because, Joe, you and I are local to the DMV, but esports talent right here in the DMV, it's popping off. This is a hot spot when it comes to esport talent, and we're seeing it here in the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference. So, Joey, last week obviously was week 2. We all know how to count there. So week 1 happened, week 2 happened last week. This is week 3. So week 2, just a quick recap of everything that happened here. Howard Community College took down Catholic University of America's Red Squad 3-0, a clean sweep there. George Mason University's C team dropped to Hood College 3-2. Hood College picking up the win as well. Over in the blue division, we have Shenandoah University B coming off of a week 1 loss, I believe. Unfortunately, could not rebound there in week 2. Randolph-Macon College B, and Joey, correct me if I'm wrong if I had my stats wrong from last week. Randolph-Macon College B 3-0'd Shenandoah University's B squad as well. And Catholic University of America's White squad took down George Mason's B team 3-0. I do believe that one did go down, unfortunately, as a forfeit. But regardless, Catholic University White picking up the win there. Joey, so what do our standings look like here going into week 3?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the standings for week 3 in the red division, we have Howard sitting on top at 2-0. In second and third, we have GMUA and NVCC, that's Nova Virginia Community College, at 1-0. Dropping down a bit further, Shenandoah A at 0-1, Hood College 1-1, Catholic Red at 0-2. Over to the blue division on top is GW, Catholic White, and Randolph, all tied at 1-0, and then followed by Shenandoah B and GMUB at 0-2.
All right. So, Joey, 2 weeks in the books. We're heading into week 3. We're starting to see what some of these teams are all about. We're starting to see which teams are really good on the rotation, are really good at setting up plays. We're seeing the teams that excel at aerial attacking, challenging those 50-50 balls, coming ahead in those, taking every chance to take control of the ball, put the ball in the back of the net. We're seeing a lot of those universities pop off as well. But we're also looking for those universities and those colleges that continue that pattern of growth. Maybe week 1 didn't go the way they wanted it to go. Maybe week 1, they weren't quite sure what they were going to be going up against. Week 2, we saw some teams slowly start to improve, and I think we're going to see that pattern as well here going into week 3. So were there any matches last week that stuck out to you, Joey, that we need to highlight?
I mean, I think there's a couple over here. Howard, for one, Howard is now 2-0. They're the biggest team as far as winning record goes. This is still very early on in the season, but Howard looking really good against Shenandoah A, pulling the 3-0. Then going on last week and taking the win over Catholic Red as well. So putting on a dominant display so far for Howard. Again, they faltered a little bit in games here and there, but as far as finding the wins, it seems like they do it week after week, and they can just continue to pile those on. So we'll see how they do heading into this week, but definitely a team to watch, at least toward the top of the table.
Absolutely. Howard, one of those high-flying teams. Nova put up a pretty good performance there in week 1 as well. Kind of curious to see if that high-velocity, high-octane, high-pressure style of play from Northern Virginia Community College will continue here in week 3 as well. Being one of the more just dominating teams, it kind of felt like they were the team, to me at least, that stood out. That once the ball got in their offensive end, it seemed like the team on defense had no chance to clear their defensive end. They were stuck deep, and Nova put up a massive amount of goals, a lot of lopsided games there in week 1. So I'm really excited to see if Nova can keep up that same kind of high-octane pace here in week 3. If they can continue to play in that form, I mean, their rotation, their pressure, their shots, their passing, I don't want to put a cast or curse out there for anyone. I don't want to point fingers at who's favorites or not. But, Joey, if I'm sitting at home and I'm watching the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference, Nova is a team that I have circled that I want to watch just because of the way they play.
Yeah, I think another one to add to that list is Randolph-Macon. They made their debut last week in week 2. They ended up with a 3-0 win over Shenandoah B. This is a Shenandoah B team who in week 1 ended up going 2-0 against George Washington. Yes, they did lose in the end. They got reverse swept. but they were right there in every single one of those games. They kept right up with GW. Unfortunate that they didn't pull out a win, but again, going to a best of 5, similar to Randolph-Macon here. Randolph ended up with a pretty solid win over them, but the games were tight. They continued to play back and forth. They were finding goals. They were finding great saves. The opportunities were there. They just fell just shy once again. I feel like they're a team right on the brink of potentially becoming a big superstar team in this league, but they still have a little bit of growth to go.
Absolutely. So we're going to continue to see how these teams develop. More importantly, not just develop on how they play, but develop on how they're going to respond to other teams as well. I'm curious to see what other universities and colleges out there have kind of changed their own play style, see what kind of tactics they're going to be bringing out to go up against these high-flying teams, these teams that have no problem pushing all 3 players up into the offensive end, really exposing themselves to the counterplay. But they have no problem pushing themselves all the way up to apply that pressure and put goal after goal after goal in. I want to see if these other teams in this league is going to be able to change how they play on defense to possibly not only just get the ball out of their defensive end, Joey, but really kick control of the midfield game, find a way to stop that entry pass from Nova, from Randolph-Macon, and find a way to take it back to them, use their aggression against them. It's a question mark we're going to have to continue to watch here, not just in week 3, but in the weeks coming up as well. Because if you can't stop that high press, that high fly, that high octane kind of play style, it is going to be a long, long season with a lot of goals going against your save average.
Absolutely. And just watching how these teams develop, we've mentioned it week after week. They're going to get better as a team. They're going to continue to form those bonds, get the passing cleaned up, get those shots cleaned up, find ways to change tactics in between games as well as something they're going to learn a little bit more throughout the course of the season. So it'll be fun to see them adapt as it goes.
All right. So, Joey, it is week 3 here at the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference. So we need to take a look at the schedule ahead for today. So on the slate, we have 4 matches bringing to you, will be brought to you live here on Twitch. Thank you for watching. Thank you. You know, everyone who's watching, pat yourself on the back. Thank you for tuning in. You guys are going to watch some amazing Rocket League action here in the DMV at the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to tune in. Really, really awesome. So we do appreciate that. So 4 matches we're going to be bringing to you here today. It's going to be Hood College versus Northern Virginia Community College. Then it's going to be Howard Community College going up against George Mason University's A team, Catholic University of America's White Squad going up against Shenandoah University's B team, and Randolph-Macon going up against George Washington. Joey, that George Washington team, that same one that pulled off that reverse sweep in week 1. A week 1 that felt like it was all 3-0s except for that game. There was one series that went 3-1, but that was the way to close out week 1. That's how you knew that we had some amazing talent here in the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference as well. So a lot of really exciting matches coming up here today. Any of those kind of stand out to you, Joey?
Every single one of them, John. I mean, we got a great slate of teams. No, but if I had to pick one, it's got to be match 2 today. Howard versus GMUA. Howard currently sitting at the top of the standings at 2-0. GMUA at 1-0. So again, they haven't played the same amount of games. GMU could be 2-0. They could be 1-1, depending on that circumstance. But I want to see 2 top contenders again early on in the season. But so far, they've looked like 2 of the best teams. How they look head to head.
Absolutely. I'm paying attention to the Hood College versus Nova match. Hood College had a bad week 1. They dropped 3-0. Week 2, they bounced back. It was a 5-game series. They ended up taking the win there as well. But going up against Nova, I mean, if you're looking for a team that is progressing after 2 weeks, Hood College is a team that you want to pay attention to. Coming back from being swept 3-0 in week 1, mentally, that's a hurdle you have to get over. Their game in week 2 went the distance, went all 5 games. That's a lot to handle as well. They were able to pull it out in game 5, so that's a big dub for them. But now you're going to be going up against that Nova team, that same Nova team that Joey, it feels like we spent the first 10 minutes of the pregame show just praising. But we're praising them for a reason. Just their rotations, their passing, their shots, their pressure. It's everything you want to see in Rocket League. And they're going to be going up against Hood College, a team that we're trying to show that progression. We're trying to show that they're able to grow from week to week. So this is going to be a real challenge for Hood College. We're going to kind of see what this team is really made of going up against that Nova team.
Yeah, absolutely. Hood versus Nova is going to be a good one. Howard versus GMUA, the really fight of the undefeated in a sense in that matchup. We also have another undefeated match down toward the bottom in match 4. That's Randolph-Macon versus George Washington. We talked about George Washington. They ended up going up against that Shenandoah team. They were able to reverse sweep there in week 1 to find a 3-2 win, and then they had a bye the next week. Randolph-Macon, on the other hand, did not end up with a match in week 1. They came out, made their debut in week 2, and it was a strong debut at that. both those teams currently sitting up toward the top at 1-0 as well.
Absolutely. And two very different play styles there as well between Randolph Macon and George Washington. Joey, I mean, I think you said it the best. There's not a single bad matchup here in week 3 for the 4 matches we'll be bringing to you live here on stream. Every single one of them, I feel like, has the distance to possibly go 4-5 games. Like I'm not feeling too confident we're going to see too many 3-0s today. But just that competition is really starting to come to fruition here in week 3. We're starting to see these teams grow and rise up there on the Rocket League field. So I'm excited to see how all 4 of these matchups are going to go. And I have a feeling we're going to be in for some high scoring action today.
Yeah, absolutely. It could go either way. I mean, regardless if it's an 0-3, if it's a best of 5 that goes all the distance, I think we're going to have good matches either way, and it'll be fun to see how these teams continue to build on one another. Even if a team does get thromped, in a sense, here in week 3, they do have plenty of weeks still left here to make adjustments, to come back a little bit stronger and continue to build those tactics up. I mean, the nice thing about it being a conference is you have that time, you have that season long to make adjustments, and then you'll probably have future seasons after that as well. So it's all about finding how you can improve as a team. If a team does end up doing extremely well against you, what did they do well? How can you continue to adjust as a team? And how can you make those adjustments to maybe be a little bit more like that team in certain senses, or find a way to counter that style? And I think we saw a little bit of that from week 1 to week 2, and I think we'll see more as the league goes on.
Absolutely. So if you are not already doing so, you need to be following the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference here on Twitch. You're already watching. Make sure you hit that follow button as well. Make sure you follow on social media as well. You can get all the latest updates to the league, the score results. You can get highlight clips posted throughout the week as well. You definitely want to be following on social media as well. And again, I can't stress it enough. Make sure you follow here on Twitch, because that is where you're going to get all the amazing Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference action at. And it's not just Rocket League. It's League of Legends. It's Overwatch. There's a lot of great action happening here at the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference. So definitely, if you're not doing so, follow the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference on social media and here on Twitch. All right, Joey, we have our homework out of the way. I am ready to go. I am fired up. I got my bottles of water over here, but we're not quite ready to kick it off on the virtual pitch just yet. We're going to throw it to a quick commercial break. On the other side, our first matchup, Hood College versus Northern Virginia Community College, coming up next on the other side of the break.
Resources